growing up, who introduced you to rugby? How did you first get into the sport?
My dad was quite keen in rugby. I was football mad, like most kids. And my dad was quite keen for me to go and try rugby, so I think he sent me to a school that played rugby when I was 11. I had a trial, not having a clue what was going on. Managed to evade a few people, and the week after you played your first game of rugby, that was my first memories of it. But yeah, definitely my dad, who was keen. He got to the game late, but loved it, and yeah, he was quite keen on me picking it up.
Fond memories at that time? Any stories from back when you were playing in school?
I don't know. I just trying to, much like I do now, try and avoid the big lads. And I think I'm small now. I was tiny at school, yeah. So I was the small one who was still reasonably chopsy and trying to, as I say, stay away from the big lads, and it served me well.
When you get into playing those games, any particular games that stick out for you when you were a kid? Then you knew you really loved this.
I don't know. I think it was always just fun, playing with your mates and all that sort of stuff. Played with, went to a club called Fylde, famous club in the northwest, to play club rugby there when I was sort of 12, 13. So I was playing Saturdays and Sundays. So obviously just loving it, and then I think it was only 16, 17 that I thought, oh, hold on, this is probably something that I've got a chance of doing as a job. And Dad was a farm. I grew up on a farm, and Dad was at work at 3 or 4 in the morning. I thought, this rugby stuff looks a little bit more appealing than that. So I thought I threw my eggs all into that basket and went for it.
Were you always a scrum half?
Wasn't. No, I played fly half until I was probably 16, 17, and then still dipped in and out of that position until I was a little bit older. We had Philippe Saint-André was one of my coaches in Sale, and the very French thing is to have your 9 play 10 and stuff. So I got a few games at 10 when I was still learning, but I think size and stature was always built for scrum half as well as personality, really. So
fast forwarding quite a long time now. It's was it 266 Premiership appearances? Well, yes, it's a record. Apparently, according to the stats. So, what does that mean to you? Do you ever envisage playing so many games?
No, obviously at the start you want a few games and that's it, and you want to try and get in the team and stay in there. But I've always someone who's set reasonably lofty goals and not achieved many of them. But this was one probably a few years ago that I remember Steve getting this record when he was my captain here, and I remember thinking how good that was, and how consistent and how durable he must have been to get there. And so I think it was a few years ago that I looked at how many games I was on and realised that if I could play well and stay in a good team like this, and with a bit of luck, that I get this, and not only get this but try and sort of take it to a place that's quite a few more.
All the way back to the beginning of your professional career. Do you remember your debut at all?
So someone asked me this today. It's like, you're old when you can't remember your debut. I remember I think our first game was a European game, and all that merges. I remember I think I got off the bench for 2 minutes against Bath in a Premiership game, but there's no record of it, so I must have dreamt it. But I think my first start was the season after that in Northampton, 2003. Northampton. The World Cup was on. Brian Redpath was away at the World Cup, and I think it was 29 all or 31 all, something like that. I think that was my first Premiership start. Yeah, so a good few years ago now.
That's right. Now all this time later, how hard do you have to work to sustain being the top player?
Oh, you do. I've made changes over the last few years in terms of what I do and how I do it, and try to get a bit smarter every year with how I do things. And I'm very lucky that we have great physios here in S&C, but I think a particular mention to Andy Edwards, who's worked very, very closely with me and me achieving what I've wanted to in the game. He's been right there for me, pushing me or working with me on what I need to work on, but also made that very individual to me. So I say there's a lot of things that have gone into it, and a lot of luck, and being part of such a good team and all the rest of it. But yeah, particularly mentioned to him, and the work that he's done with me.
In your career, are there any sort of major tough moments that you can recall, and who's helped you out? Obviously, you mentioned Andy Edwards there. But
yeah, so right back at the start, Brian Redpath was great with me. I mean, I badgered him with an inch of his life. He was a scrum half. He was Scotland captain at the time. He was a brilliant Premiership player, and so I just badgered him for all the information I could get. He was great with me at the start. Plenty of tough moments, where you're not getting picked in your career and you think you should. I look back and I cringe now. It was a nightmare. I was always knocking on the coach's door asking why I wasn't playing and all this sort of stuff. And but I just had a real sort of desire to do well, and I knew I was only going to get one crack at this, so I was going to give it everything I got. And sometimes that spilled over into sort of over enthusiasm, shall I call it? But I've always sort of gone after everything I can get. But yeah, plenty of tough moments early on. The odd injury, but I've been pretty lucky with that. The double final loss a few years ago now that probably ended up spurring us on, but that was in Steve's last year, and it wasn't the right way to send him out. It's a great player for the club, so there's plenty of tough ones along the way. But as I say, lucky enough to be at this club where in the last few years we've had way more good than bad.
So being here now, you still enjoying your rugby? Still enjoying
I love it, mate. Yeah, I'm what we'd probably call a nose. I love the game. I'm a fairly intense sort of competitive thing, and no, I do. I probably love being part of this group and everything it brings. I think that helps. That we're such a good team with such good players who want to push on, and that sort of stuff. Makes it easy to come to work every day, and we have great coaches that push you but make it fun. And yeah, I can't say enough about this club and the environment and everyone in it. Lads to a man are brilliant. So there's no better place to be, really.
Of course, life after rugby, is that something you think about?
Yeah, I've thought about it for a while, and they push you at this club to think about that sort of stuff. If I'm honest, like I've said, I'm a bit of a nose, so I want to stay in rugby, so I think my first choice would be to try and coach. I've done stuff around that for the last few years that I'm doing more and more now. So I don't want to take away from the day job, which is trying to be as good a player as I can be, and still think I can improve. So that's my main focus, but I do stuff outside the game now on my days off, coaching and trying to get sort of experience in that world before I try and give it a crack.
And finally, onto Gloucester, the occasion where you make that landmark. They're a good team, sitting pretty
very
well
good team. Yeah,
they're third at the moment at this early stages. It must be a tough team to face on.
Yeah, well, I think you looked at the signings they made and the strides they made last year, and then the signings they made. Pack's really big and aggressive now, and they've put Cipriano in at 10, who's obviously a great player pulling the strings. So we know that. We looked at them on paper at the start of the season thinking they're going to be a contender, and they've not disappointed, have they? I think first 3 games have been great. So we know probably our toughest test so far by a mile, but we're at home, and hopefully we rise to the challenge of facing a very, very good team, and we pull out our best performance of the year.
And celebrate that milestone in front of the home fans as well. It'd be good to.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd say they were outstanding last week, actually travelling to Northampton, doing great voice. So hopefully they're there in the numbers at the weekend, and we can give them something to shout about.